So today we are going to discuss about lesson number 5, Indian rivers and water resources. So what are the resources of water and what are the rivers and what are the sacred rivers? These are all we discuss in this lesson. So first, whatever lesson, you have to bifurcate the lesson like this. These are the learning objects. What to learn, what is the concept, what is the main concept in this lesson. We have to think about that and write some learning objects. First, see this Himalayan rivers. What are the Himalayan rivers? There are three Himalayan rivers: Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra. Okay, but here these are not rivers. This is Indus river system, Ganga river system. This is a system completely with all the tributaries and how it flows and where it flows and all. We discuss about the Himalayan rivers. So we have see here you can understand the Himalayan rivers. In the Himalayan rivers, particularly if you see the Indus river. So what are the tributaries and all we learned in the first lesson, isn't it? Relief features. And that is first Himalayan rivers, Indus river, Brahmaputra rivers, Indus system, Brahmaputra river system and Ganga river system. And next is peninsular rivers. These are the Himalayan rivers and these are the peninsular rivers. See, there is a difference. We can later discuss. So second is Indian peninsular rivers like Godavari, Krishna, Penna, Kaveri, Mahanadi, Narmada, Tapati. These are all comes under peninsular rivers. And water use. So how we have to use the water? And for a different purpose, it's a life for us, for everyone. So for a different purposes, how we are using water. So water flowing out via surface flow and groundwater. Even in 9th class also we learned what is the cycle. The cycle is, water cycle is precipitation, condensation, again isn't it? Ground off, runoff water, groundwater, these are all. So water flowing via surface flows and groundwater. That means rivers, ponds, rainwater, this is all one side and the groundwater the other side. Okay, so via surface flow and groundwater. Water use is, so in that what are the uses of water? Mainly water for agriculture, okay, water for domestic purpose. Domestic purpose means all the how human and animals, domestic purpose for people, humans, for plants and for animals. And next water in use in Tungabhadra river. See here in this lesson we just discuss the Tungabhadra river. What is the Tungabhadra river and why it is why we are discussing in this lesson. These are all details in this. Next is rational and equitable use of water. This is more important. So what is the rational and equitable use of water? Rational is we have to keep some rationing. That means how say very carefully we have to use, sustainably we have to use. How we are sustainably, that means we have to use whatever we want and even for the next generations also we have to give the water. So we have to think about not only for the next generation, the tomorrows, your children and all, for them also we have to sustainably we have to use it. That means even for their purposes also, in future use also we have to think. See for example mines, we are talking about mines, completely the mines are extracting. So once extracts, those are all exhaustible energies, isn't it? Once extract, that's all. There will be no, we cannot reproduce it, isn't it? If renewable and non-renewable resource. Renewable resource means if you cut a plant, in another place you can you can grow one more plant and yield some food from that. But if you cut a granite rock or if you cut a coal mines or something, then what happens? Can't you plant it again? No, we cannot. So these are all comes under exhaustible energies. When the exhaustible energies are there, we have to very carefully, rationally, equitably, that means for every purpose for the future generations and our generation. Whatever we need, that much we have to use it and for the future generation also we have to use. So that is rational and equitable use of water. And the main thing we have to think about the water as common pool of resource. This is not a property of someone. It's a common pool of resource. That's why you can raise that question. Anyone, being a citizen of India, if somebody is wasting water, you have to tell. We have every right to tell that don't waste water. isn't it? Because it is not somebody's or somebody's own property. This is a common pool of resource. It is a common pool of resource. So how these waters are coming and what are the river systems and all we discuss deeply now. So Himalayan rivers, you all know that. You all know that. See the map. The here in the North India, there are we learned about first lesson Himalayan rivers. What are the Himalayan rivers? They are here. Completely the Himalayan rivers. What are Himalayan rivers? Rivers are melting from. There are twin sources. One is rain-fed rivers, and the other is one is rain-fed source. There are twin sources for Himalayas. One is rain-fed rivers, rain-fed, and the other is melting of Himalayas. When they are melting of Himalayas completely throughout the 365 days, water will be available in these Himalayan rivers. What are they? In the west, there are three: west, central, east. In the west side, in the west there are, in the west we have Indus River, and in the central we have what is the Ganga system, and have Brahmaputra. Here there are three rivers. What are that? In west, Indus River. It is almost the Indus River. We have for Indus River there are 5 tributaries. What are the tributaries? We discussed even in first lesson: Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, and Satluj. These are the 5 tributaries of Indus River. So 60% of the Indus River, after the partition of India, 60% belongs to Pakistan and remaining 40% in the Jharkhand, Haryana, and these places it is occupied. And these are all from melting of Himalayas. So Himalayan rivers are almost 365 days water will be available, and they are perennial. They are called perennial, not Jeeva Nadu, live waters. So every time, total 365 days, 24 hours, their water will be available there. That's why in the northern plains, totally they are completely these flourishing with the agriculture because of these Himalayan rivers. What are that? Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra. And Indus river, Ganga river is, it's not a river, it's a system, river system with the tributaries and all. It flows from central plains to east. And this is about the river Ganga originates from Gangotri Glacier, from Himalayan glacier, Gangotri Glacier, and it completely glacier at Gomukh. The headwaters of Ganga known as Bhagirathi, and this Bhagirathi joins the river Alkananda at Devaprayag. At Devaprayag it meets. Okay, and it joins Alkananda at Devaprayag, and Yamuna is the second largest sacred river, and Ganga is the most sacred river for Hindus particularly, and Yamuna is the second largest tributary of Ganga, and Yamuna is the second largest, and it meets at Allahabad, and so originates at Allahabad. So all these river systems, Himalayan river, Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra is completely in the eastern side. Assam, Nepal, Assam, Meghalaya here completely, and it is sometimes these Himalayan rivers are overflooded. Why? Because they have twin resource, I said. They say rain-fed and also the melting of Himalayas. So sometimes almost Brahmaputra is every alternative years that whatever the nearby rivers they are being flooded nearby the areas Assam and all. Okay, and next Indian Peninsula rivers. When you come to Indian Peninsula, see, you all know that India is a peninsular state. Sometimes we use the context, in this context we use country as a state. So total India is seen here. Why this is peninsula? You all know why this is peninsula. 3 sides water: east Bay of Bengal, west Arabian Sea, and north Himalayas, and south Indian Ocean. So 3 sides we have water. That's why it is called peninsula. So it has a long coastal line from where it is, from Orissa, from West Bengal, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, okay, Chennai, Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, and Kanyakumari, Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, Mumbai, okay, and till Gujarat. Till here, completely these 9 states are near by the coastal areas. So that will be a coastal climate and they'll have a different occupations. 90% people are nearby the sea coastal areas. And this is peninsular river. So whatever peninsula, that means near to here, whatever area is there, that is called peninsular river, a peninsular area. So in the peninsular India, there are many rivers are there. In that the biggest river is Godavari, Kaveri, Krishna, Narmada, Tapati. Okay, these are all different rivers. And the Ganga system, Brahmaputra and Indian Peninsula River, the Chambal, Betwa, Sindh, Ken, Son originates the north of peninsula belong to Ganga river system. And water use, when we are talking about the water use, water via surface flow and groundwater. Generally what happens, we are using for water for irrigation, isn't it? A lot of water. How most of the water is using for the water users means mainly flowing via surface water and even groundwater, because dug wells and digging wells and all we are using bore wells and all for irrigational purpose. So water for irrigation, water for agriculture, and water used for domestic purpose for animals and for domestic purpose, that means all cleaning purpose and all for plants, animals, human beings, and these are all we are talking about agriculture. Most of the thing is for agriculture we are using more water, and not only that, for industrial purpose. And sometimes most of the water even we are using for industrial purpose. Many industries are there in India and they need more water for industrial purpose, agriculture purpose and domestic use. So how the water will be used for us? Agriculture purpose, domestic purpose and for animals and for industrial purpose. These are all importantly we use this water. And which is required manufacturing process in industries and always competes with the domestic and agriculture water, and the need for water increasing. So day by day uses are increasing and people lifestyle is becoming different, and different crops we are raising. And once upon a time when the people are increasing, population is increasing. When according to population, even the needs are also increasing. When the needs are increasing, the products should be more, isn't it? For agriculture products, and lifestyle and food style also became different. So different coarse grains, different grains they are eating, different foods, different crops we have to raising. In 9th class we learned about the agriculture in India. So how they are doing all these things. So water is most important for agriculture purpose. Okay, and particularly we are talking about Tungabhadra river. This briefly I will explain and I will stop it. See, Tungabhadra river, generally this Tungabhadra river is within the two, it is related with the three states. One is Andhra Pradesh, one is it belongs to Tungabhadra river is belongs to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Karnataka. So what is the problem? Why we are mentioning Tungabhadra river here? Because there are more challenges facing by Tungabhadra river, and there are so many conflicts between these three states. Once Tungabhadra river, that water is using by three states here. What are they? One is Karnataka, one is Andhra Pradesh and one is Telangana. So here if they use it in a right way, and if three states have a good understanding, then definitely Tungabhadra river waters are maximally and ultimately maximum utilization we can do it. But there are different conflicts and it's a big story that will be discussed in the next class, children. Thank you.